and I needed stable income. And I knew that with the right type of rental strategy that I can get like reoccurring income. So that was the move to investing. I called one of my investor clients and I offered them a deal. I said, hey, if you buy this property for me cash so I can close on it, I will turn around and buy it from you and pay you $10,000. We got a surprise check the other day and I'm like, this is nice. This is what we want to
Yeah,
do, like full time.
exactly. Hey guys, this is Sharat with REsimpli, host of the REsimpli podcast, bringing you a very special guest, Erika Brown, on this podcast. Erika, welcome to REsimpli podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being a guest. I know you're super busy, so I truly appreciate your time. Erika, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you live, and how are you related to this crazy world of real estate?
I am in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I'm actually originally from Dallas, Texas, and I have been investing, oh man, for 9 years now. I started out, I was in the banking industry, got into investing first as a real estate agent, and I needed to figure out how to come up with some stable income every month while I was starting my business as an agent and started picking up properties over time. And now I primarily invest between Atlanta and Texas. And I have single family, small multifamily. I do some flipping. We have a landscaping company. I have a real estate team. I'm a co-founder of a brokerage. I'm also a coach. So I'm very much in the real estate game pretty much Monday through Friday.
Yeah, you're basically with everything going on, you're not doing much in life, right? Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So you were in the banking industry and then you decided to become an agent. Is that
Yes.
right? Like
hmm
what happened? Were you not happy with what you were working, what you were doing at
Yeah.
in the at banking that made you look into real estate?
Yeah, so I started out as a banker, then kind of worked my way up to a branch manager, and I was trying to get on the corporate side of things and was really having a hard time transitioning. And I definitely thought I was gonna be in the 9 to 5 grind until I was 65. I had no type of entrepreneurial desires or passions actually at all. And it wasn't until I kept getting job offers that I kept getting declined job offers. And then I knew, okay, let me pause. Maybe God has something else for me. In the meantime, I had actually relocated. I don't actually share this as often. This is a good one. I relocated with 25 people from Texas to Atlanta to help start a church, which is crazy. And I moved to this neighborhood and I fell in love with the neighborhood and I helped a bunch of my friends move to the neighborhood too, but I kept passing them on to the local real estate agent. So through that process, I fell in love with real estate. I started learning from my really wealthy clients and I figured out like, okay, whether, this person is an executive for Coke or they are an entrepreneur, they all invest in real estate. And so I started learning, and just with those closed doors, I feel like God kind of like allowed me to see that there was an opportunity in real estate that I was already doing, but just wasn't getting paid for. And
Got it.
that's when I made the transition.
Okay. So you decided, so you got your license, and then after you got a couple of deals, you decided to leave your 9 to 5 job and then pursued real estate full time
Yes.
as an agent.
Yes, and even the basis of that change is that I really wanted more autonomy over my time. I just
Right.
hated staying there all day, and I was done with my work. I just felt like I can have more, efficient things to do with my time. So
Mm.
that was kind of like the basis of why I wanted to move.
Got it. Okay. So you
Yeah.
started as an agent, and then what transitioned you to investing side of the business? Like what happened as you were helping, these clients, wealthy clients, and then you're like, hey, I want to do investing for my side.
Yeah, I needed stable income. I needed to be able to have a certain amount of income coming every month while I was starting my real estate business. And so my husband worked in a nonprofit world, which doesn't make a bunch of money. So I was leaving a pretty good paying job, and I needed stable income. And I knew that with the right type of rental strategy that I can get like reoccurring income. So that was the move to investing.
So you started buying rental properties in the Atlanta, Georgia area?
Yes.
Okay. Your first property, did you just buy it from MLS? You like ran the numbers. How did you get the confidence to go out and, there's one thing as an agent helping other people buy properties, but when you have to buy your own, I'm sure you're nervous, anxious. Like
For
walk me through
sure.
the first property experience. How did you find it and how did you
Yeah.
get over that, you know, fear of buying your first property?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So my first property, I picked up an investor client. I told all my friends, hey, I'm a real estate agent. If you have anyone that is looking to buy and sell, connect me with them. I had a friend connect me with an investor that was looking to buy a bunch of properties, and I didn't have anything else to do. I had some clients that I was working with, but I had a lot of free time and I was really motivated. So, I rode around with the investor and he was like, hey, can you look up all these vacant houses and figure out who the owners are and I'll put offers on them. And so I was looking at this one neighborhood and I noticed that there was one group that owned a bunch of houses. So instead of me just like looking up all these numbers or these folks, I just called I found the number and called the agent or the person who was representing the company and just say, hey, can you send me your entire portfolio?
Yeah.
And he sent me the whole list of the portfolio. And then I said, well, I'm looking for my client, but if I see one or two that I like, would you guys be willing to sell to me? And so a lot of it was just asking questions along the
Yeah.
way. Nowadays I wouldn't have asked that, but then, I was just, can I just buy one property? And he was like, sure, yeah, absolutely. And so I found a bunch of properties for my client, but I picked, of course, the best one for myself.
Yeah.
And because I knew some upcoming development that was taking place in the area, and I was able to figure out where that property was located and identified that this is a really good property. Also, another thing that really stood out about that particular property was that it was already a Section 8 property. I knew going into buying our first investment that I didn't really want a big project. And so my thought process was if it's already been in a rental property, then and livable, that it has to be at least decent. A lot
Right.
of the things have to be kept up in order to, meet the housing authority guidelines. So I reached out to them, placed an offer. They accepted the offer. And then I got to financing, and I was like, well, because I was using a part of my 401k for the down payment, and my husband was putting it in my husband's name because he still had a W-2 income, and they were like, well, you can't use this money because it's not seasoned. And so that was my first kind of like big obstacle. But instead of like allowing that to just stop me, I actually did something super crazy. I called one of my investor clients. I really don't know where I got this confidence at this stage because I really didn't know much, but I called one of my investor clients and I offered them a deal. I said, hey, if you buy this property for me cash so I can close on it, I will turn around and buy it from you and pay you $10,000. And they said, yeah. And so I was able to buy the property, turn around and finance it once my seasoning period was over. And I paid my client investor $10,000. And that's how we got our first investment property.
Isn't that crazy, Erica? When like it's true for everyone. When we're starting out, we don't know anything better, and we just ask like anything we feel. Like there's no hesitation to asking,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
then you get some of the crazy things just by asking. And it's funny as you get more experience, more season, some of the things that were working for you just by asking now I feel like now that I'm more experienced, I feel like, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. And then when I look, I'm like, it worked back in the day when I was starting. It should work now that I'm more
Yeah.
experienced. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like you just ask, this big company, it's like, hey, can I buy one or two properties? There's nothing wrong like in asking. Like that's how I bought my first property. It was listed for 65 or 75,000. I made an offer for 20. I'm like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? They'll say no.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
Now I feel like, oh, I don't want to offend someone. Like, and
Hmm.
sometimes wonder, like, it worked in the past. Why wouldn't it work now? So it's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it was great. So I want to ask you something. So you are in a unique, position where you are an investor and also an agent, right? How does that help you in your investing business, being an agent, and how does, you know, being an investor helps you in your agent business? Because there's a question that comes up all the time, for investors. Hey, I'm an investor. Should I also get my license? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I get that question a lot too. I always tell people, because people sometimes they say, I want to be a agent because you get the best deals, but they don't think about it necessarily from when they ask me that, they don't think about it from like a, um, you know, I meet a client and they want me to sell their house and I buy it. They think about we have like some type of special list that we get before everyone. I'm like, that doesn't, you can buy that list without having to be a
Right.
real estate agent. So I always tell people if you have a passion to help people buy and sell houses, and you like to help people, yes, be an agent. If you don't even like to talk to people, you probably shouldn't be an agent. Or if you are interested in flipping properties at a high volume, then that also can make sense to be an agent. So, and also an investor. So I would say that. But for me, as an agent that is also an investor, I add a ton of value with that relationship because a lot of times, whenever I am working with either strictly investors or even just homeowners, home buyers that have an investor mindset, they really see value in working with me because I see things differently than your standard real estate agent.
Right.
I'm involved with figuring out what the development is coming down the line. I know how to run numbers. There's tons of value that I can bring with that relationship, which is great. Now, on the flip side, as with me being an agent, and also being an investor, I have been able to get deals before listing it because, clients just come to me wanting me to sell their property. And I've done that multiple times where I say, okay, oh, wow, that's a good deal. Would it be okay if I actually place an offer myself? Or would it be okay is before I list that property on Monday where I can go buy it and see if I want to place an offer? And I still give them a fair offer at a, decent price, all of
Right.
that. But yeah, I've been able to take advantage of some of those opportunities that have been very amazing, but it is I still have to do the work to be an agent to even get
Right.
that type of business.
Yep, exactly. And then one thing that I did not realize, before I got into the real estate space was that for me, as someone outside of real estate space, I always thought all agents are alike. It's like you just call any agent. That was so far from truth.
Yeah,
You work with one agent. Some agents just become agents for the sake of becoming an agent, and they don't
yeah,
put in the effort. They don't like talking to people, just exactly kind of what you mentioned. And then some agents just they understand what the investor mindset is. So it
yeah,
makes such a big difference working with the right agent. I had no idea before I got into real estate space. I thought, all right, I just call any agent. They're going to show me the properties. That's what they're going to do. But once you get into it, like, wow, it's such a big difference. Now I think about that for like, I'm not in the insurance industry. So me, I think, okay, all insurance brokers are the same. They do the same thing, but I'm sure that's not the case. So
yeah,
you own several businesses. You have your
yeah.
own brokerage, correct?
I'm
You
a co-founder of a brokerage.
co-founder. Yeah. So you're co-founder of a brokerage. You have an investing business. You said you have a landscaping business,
Yep. We
and then
have a
you have a
landscaping business and we have an education business as
education. How
well.
do you manage all of that? Like, you have so many things going on. How do you, what's priority for you? Do they all get like 25% of your time? Or is there like one thing that, okay, this is what I need to focus on, and this business kind of feeds down all the other businesses?
Yeah, so similar to like real estate, you're in different phases. You have acquisition, you have stabilization, you have exit. So I'm in different phases of some of those businesses. So like when we first started the landscaping company, for the first couple years, I was highly involved in the startup phase. But now I'm not. I'm like fully passive in that business, and my husband and my brother-in-law run that business majority times. And so as a co-founder, I have other partners, and one of our partners is a CEO. And so like I just got off a call with my founders meeting. So I'm less passive in that business, but I still have a good amount of ownership. With the real estate team, with basically I have a internal team. I have an operations manager, I have an executive assistant. I have a small team that basically helps me to manage my most active businesses, and we look at the
Okay.
active businesses as departments. So we have a agent department, we have an education department, and we have a property management department. And so I essentially hired a staff that helps to manage all of those businesses so that I'm able to just kind of show up and do what I do best. And I'm not doing things that I'm really not good at it, if that makes
Got
sense.
it. Yeah, no, no, it does. I'm curious about education side of the business. How did you get on, in the education? Did that happen by design? Was that an accident? Like people started coming up to you and like, hey, Erica, what are you doing? Can you like
Yeah.
teach me? Like, how did that happen?
Fully accident.
Fully
Fully
accident?
accidental. Yeah, because I'm a person, I naturally love to share when I learn new things. And so as I've been learning in my journey, I've always shared with my friends what I was doing because I was between it's myself and one other person. We were the only ones out of our friends that were investing. Like I didn't grow up knowing what a landlord is or anything like that. And so we didn't have like a group of people. I very much have been like, the one bringing everyone along with me. And so as I am investing and, my husband and I, we're investing. And so we just have friends reach out, say, hey, can you help us too? Can you help us buy and sell? And so basically I got to a point where I had too many people that wanted me to teach them. So just based off of efficiency, I started teaching within a group. And I just
Mm.
started sharing what I was doing online. I didn't even know the whole idea of like real estate influencer. I didn't know anything about that because I was just working. I
Mm.
wasn't like online doing things. And then so I just started based on efficiency, started hosting, groups and teaching them how to invest. And then now it's grown into a whole community. I've helped over, 500 students in 3 years, and we have folks from New York all the way to California. And so it's been really beautiful to see things grow.
Absolutely. No, congratulations on all the success. One thing I want to ask is, I'm sure you've seen, with your own, in your own community, there's always going to be like just the nature of the business we're in, like vast majority of people actually never end up doing a deal, So someone who's listening to this and they're struggling to get their first deal, like what is it that you notice that separates people that are actually going out and doing deals versus the ones that are always trying but never actually end up doing a deal?
Two things. One, the people that actually do a deal, they've invested or taken risk in some small way before buying real estate. Whether
Interesting.
it is Turo or whether it is renting out a room or just some other small
Interesting.
type of
That is
investment.
so
Yes,
interesting.
they've
Yeah.
done something else before where they have seen the value in that small reward and they're more likely to get over their fear and pull the trigger. So that's one. That's a big one.
Wow.
And then the other pattern that I've noticed is that the people who like struggle with belief, like extreme belief, like they have a hard time pulling the trigger. And so for those people, they don't need a coach, they need a therapist a lot of times. And so once they can kind of work through that mindset, kind of baseline things, then they can actually get over that fear because fear doesn't actually leave, you know, it doesn't leave until you
Yeah.
get experience. You don't get to a place where it's like, oh, I'm not afraid anymore. I can do this. Like, no, I'm sure you still do things every today that you're afraid of, and I do too. And so you just get comfortable as you gain the experience. And so people that get that, they're able to actually push through and pull the trigger.
Yeah. That, the first point that you mentioned about the Turo, that is so interesting, or doing some sort of a side hustle. I want to ask you like a little bit more. Do you notice people who have had some success doing that are the ones who get successful, or people who have tried other things, they may or may not have achieved success in doing that, whether it's Turo, Uber, or whatever it might be, whether they achieve success in that or not. But the fact they tried are the ones who are becoming successful.
Yes, I agree because they see the value in, oh wow, I can do this easier. And
Right.
I get the people who pull the trigger the fastest and are kind of growing the quickest are actually invest people who have tried to invest on their own and they like something happens and they fail miserably, but they also see the value in what they could have done if they knew things up front. Because when you're starting out, you don't know what you don't know. So those are the people that generally would come back. Like I was just working with a client recently. She flipped a property this year. She's like, I made $20,000, but I feel like I could have done it easier. And then when we drilled her numbers down, she was like, "Oh my gosh, I could have made $100,000
Wow.
if I knew this information." And so now she's all in because she got a little taste of
Yeah.
what's possible, and now she just needs the systems and the knowledge to tweak it and make it successful.
Interesting. And it's funny, before I started doing real estate, I had a corporate job, but I had tried playing full-time poker on this side. I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to do all these different things, be a day trader and whatnot. So I
Mhm.
was okay to take risk, but I hadn't found the right, asset to basically take the risk on. And real
Yeah.
estate was that for me. It's so interesting that you mentioned that. Nobody has ever kind of said that. And now that you mentioned that, it kind of makes sense. I mean, now even
Yeah.
when I look at other investors that I talk to, it seems like that's very true. They've had some sort of a side hustle, before they tried, and they're like, okay, real estate is the one that I can really leverage for the long term.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
For me, I was a house hacker and didn't realize it.
Yeah.
When we bought our first house, we rented out the basement, and we came from like this kind of church community where it's just very communal. It's like if someone needs a room, you give them, you let
Yeah.
them rent a room. And so we rented out our basement, and we at the time because we were just kind of starting out, a young family that helped us pay for childcare. So that was my kind of seed that was planted.
Right.
Like, oh wow, if we can do this, then maybe we can buy more properties and make up the difference.
Exactly. So what is with your real estate coaching program, are you helping investors get their first deal, or these are investors that are a little bit experienced, you're helping them scale their business? What are you helping your real estate clients with, investor
Yeah.
clients with?
Yeah, so I have a mentorship program that is essentially those are your beginner folks who are just trying to get it's like I say it's like 60% knowledge and about 30% support. So they're really trying to learn what their options are, really learn like where the capital is to help them invest, and then they get some support along the way. So my mentorship is that way. My mastermind is actually flipped. They've already invested in the knowledge, but it's a high hands-on support and community model. So I have those two programs. The mastermind tends to be for people that are a little bit more advanced, have a couple 2 to 3 properties under their belt that just desire more hands-on support in in-person community. So
Got
we
it.
have
And
something for everyone.
and you have this amazing viewpoint of working with clients from New York to California, and then you're investing in Atlanta, Georgia. What are
Mhm.
you noticing with, kind of where we're at in August 2024? The interest rate has come down a little bit, and people are hoping and anticipating that it will keep coming down. Kind of where do you see the market going from here?
Yeah, I mean, you have to really stay up to date with what's happening in your local market. I was on the call with my clients earlier. I have a client in Connecticut where interest rates have went down, but because of the low inventory, prices have not went down or have actually went up a little bit more. So
Mm,
that's very interesting. Down here in Georgia, it's in the city, prices have went down. In the suburbs, prices are going up. So you have to pay highly attention with your market, what's going on. Same thing in LA. They went through this period of being like, we were kind of worried of what was going to happen. Now they're getting multiple bidding wars depending on the price point or whatever. So I think overall, the markets where you've seen a huge amount of appreciation over the last 4 years, I think we're going to see prices fall there. Like you got your San Francisco, you have your Austin, maybe even Phoenix. But in other regions where people are still, the population is still increasing, jobs are still growing, like where I am in the Southeast. you're gonna continue to see stability and if not, still some growth.
How's that impacting your investment strategy? Like, what are you focused on, like this year and moving forward?
Two things I'm focusing on is optimizing my current portfolio. So we're looking at, where can we added 2 units this year to in our existing portfolio. So it's like we have properties where we bought them maybe in like down here where I am, we have basements. So it's like, okay, let's add a unit in the basement instead of buying another property. So our buy and hold strategy, we're just optimizing our portfolios and then we're flipping to just keep some cash flow going, paying down HELOC stuff like that. And so we're taking that approach right now based on my market.
And you're flipping in the Atlanta, Georgia market?
Yes,
Good.
in the suburban
So,
market, but the
okay.
affordable price range, which is also, I think, a really good niche. I think if you can figure out whatever market you're in, what the affordable, and I know affordable is very relative,
Yeah.
um every like in my area, anything under 450, 400 is considered affordable, right? And I
Right.
know that that's like it's a very competitive price range, and so we're looking to flip properties in that price range because we can get things moving quicker, and we have a larger amount of people who are able to jump in. And so yeah, that's what we're
Yeah.
doing
No,
this year.
100% agree. In our market, it's like 250, 300 and below price point, where it's
Hmm.
first time home buyers, FHA
Yeah.
buyers. And then if they were to rent a similar price, it would almost be their mortgage would almost
Yeah.
be, their rent would almost be what their mortgage would be. So I think that is a very, very sweet spot for us where
It's
people are able
safe.
to, in some cases, have lower mortgage than the rent for the exact same house. And then with FHA, they're only putting 3.5% down. And then they can also get some incentives from the seller. So actually they're coming out very little out of pocket. So you're
Yes.
absolutely right. That's 100% our sweet spot.
Yep.
So Erika, what's your like goal moving forward? If you look ahead, next, 2, 3, 5 years, like where do you see yourself going?
Yeah. I want to continue to grow my portfolio so then in the next 10 years we can create an exit. I want to eventually be a bank, whether it is, cash out and just go completely passive or to just seller finance and just, hold notes. I want to, in the 10 years, figure out a way to be like not having to deal with any maintenance requests.
Right.
Like I just want to like have residual money coming in every month. So we're working towards that. We're also interested in like other businesses that just provide cash flow, just I don't like to work a lot. If I
Yeah.
like to, I'm multi-passionate, but I don't like to have a lot of things on my
Coming
calendar.
from someone who has 4 businesses.
Yeah, but I like to collect checks.
Like,
That's
yeah.
it. Just
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. No, I like your approach.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And so like yeah, we are also like angel investors in a couple things, and like we got a surprise check the other day, and I'm like, this is nice. This is what we want to
Yeah.
do, like full time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's the season I'm in with my education brand. We really we want to grow to where we become a education hub for women and minorities, where like you can come and you can see books that are written by minorities and women, to see courses and various topics. So we want to like grow to become like a education publication, and so that would be beautiful to see happen within 10 years as well.
Absolutely. That's such a good cause because sometimes, you know, like the books that are written by a lot of authors may be written from a certain background, which are
Yeah,
hard to relate to, me, myself being a minority. You
yeah.
can sense that, there's like things you have to look at from a different perspective. So I absolutely love the cause that you have. Yeah. Anika, this has been absolutely fantastic. I appreciate your time so much. I've a couple of last questions for you. You have so much that you're working on, so many businesses, helping hundreds of clients across the country. What is it that you do for fun?
Ooh, I love to travel.
Yeah?
I love to travel. I was just at the Grand Canyon on Saturday.
Nice.
I love to
So
hike. I love
beautiful.
to travel. I love to travel with my family. So yeah, that's something that we'd love to do. We just love to explore new places, learn about new cultures. So food and travel,
Food
that's
and
where
travel.
that's where we spend our
Nice.
money on.
Nice. There you go. And buying
Yeah.
other businesses. Yeah.
Yes,
What's
yeah.
the most memorable place you've ever been to like travel?
Oh, that's well, last year, it's not it's a common place to go, but it was memorable because I got to take we got to take our whole family plus my mom. We did 10 days in London and Paris, and that
That
was
is
just
so cool.
amazing. We went to the old one of my son is a baker. He has a baking
Okay.
business. And we got a chance to go to the oldest bakery in Paris. So all
Oh,
paid
that
for
is
by real
so
estate.
cool. That
Yeah,
is
so
so
it's like
cool.
the opportunities that, we have and the memories we made are just they're amazing. So
That is so amazing. That's so fantastic. Erica, what's the one book that's had the biggest impact on your life? It could be a personal book, business book, or one of each.
So I'm gonna say another book outside of Rich Dad Poor Dad because I'm sure
Hmm.
lots of investors say that because so that's too. But more recently, a book called it's in the Dan Sullivan group. If you guys are familiar with
Yeah, yeah.
Strategic Coach,
Yep.
10x 10x
10x
is
is
easier than 2x. Oh
2x.
my gosh,
Yes.
it
It's,
has become an annual read. It's so
yeah.
good.
Absolutely. I just had that conversation about that book with my team member yesterday about setting bigger goals, because then you have to look at things from a different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely great, great recommendation. My final question, if you could spend a day with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would you want to spend that day with and why?
It will be, I'm sure there's lots of amazing other people, but it will probably be my grandmother that I never got to meet.
Wow.
Um, and I say that because, so growing up, especially a lot of us that are entrepreneurs, we have been different. We always have probably looked at life a little bit different than our family members. And so I always felt a little different growing up and I never got a chance to meet my grandmother because she passed when my dad was 4. And when I finally heard about her story, her personality, who she was, I felt seen through her. She was very similar
Wow.
personality to myself, and it made me feel more confident in who I was. Like I always loved to read. I've always been very like, bold. I've always, all these things. And so when I learned about her story and her personality, I was amazed. So I would love to meet her and have some conversations with her.
Absolutely great answer. Thank you so much for sharing that. Erica,
Mhm.
someone listening to this wants to connect with you, learn more about everything you got going on, find out about your coaching program. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yes, I'm very active on Instagram. You can follow me at Erika Brown Investor on Instagram, Erika. If you're not on Instagram, just in case, because some people don't, and that's fine, you can also go to my website at owningitandlivingit.com, and I have tons of free resources in my resource library to help you get started.
Perfect. We'll put links to both of them in the show notes. Erica, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was absolutely incredible. Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
so much. Thanks for having
Thanks.
me.